God exists, gang. We destroy arguments and every opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. What does that say? We destroy arguments. Hell yeah, we do. My football team, my foosball team. It was crazy. We were like 96% to win. Hey, Jacob. We were 99% to win. You full of shit's ache. Welcome, guest.
What up? What up?
Yeah.
How are you?
So,
Do you accept God?
yeah, I'm a Christian.
Ah, true.
So, are you a Christian?
I'm not.
Oh, what do you believe?
I believe religions are man-made, and so is God's.
Oh, but like, would atheism be man-made?
To some degree, I guess. It comes from the mind of man.
So then atheism is false, and religion is false. So like, what?
Sorry, say that again.
I don't understand. Like, if something comes from man, therefore false, then like, how do you believe anything is true?
We have tools to like discern truth and reality.
Yeah, but those come from people.
Yeah, but they're reliable.
But they come from people, and people aren't.
Yeah, but
so ultimately, it's not.
I never said that something that comes from man does like automatically means it's not true or reliable.
Oh, I thought that was your argument against religion.
No, I just believe they are man-made.
Okay, so, you think you can rationally deny Christian God?
I think so.
What would be the rationale?
The rationale would be, I don't find it convincing.
Okay, but that's not. That's just like you being emotional, though. That's not like a reason to not believe it.
What emotion is that?
Well, it's ignoring the evidence and believing what you want to be true. That's what you're doing.
But it's not. I just genuinely don't find it convincing. The same way I don't find like flat Earth convincing, something like that. I just don't find it convincing.
Well, you have evidence that the Earth is a sphere, though, so that's not the same, is it?
Do you get emotional with your denial of flat Earth? Is that just emotion?
But when it comes to like believing the Earth is a sphere, you have evidence that for your position that the Earth is a sphere. Whereas the flat Earth position would be like an emotional position because they're ignoring evidence. And what you're doing is you're like the flat earther, where you're ignoring that like God's obvious, and you're just believing what you want to be true, as opposed to what like the evidence.
Well, we could both do that. We could say like I'm the flat earther and you're the flat earther. But how do we know what's true in reality? Like, what sort of tools do humans have to discern what's truth in reality? If we're both blank slates, or we're some kind of uncontacted tribe coming out into the world for the first time, and we want to discover what's true, what are we going to use?
We typically use like rational proof or an empirical proof, but there's also like a transcendental proof.
But you said I thought you said it's obvious that we live in God's world.
It is obvious because there's no way to prove anything without God's revelation. If we if you try to have you wouldn't be able to have a coherent theory of knowledge if you just relied on our human reasoning or observations of the world. We literally need God's revelation to make sense of have any proof of all at all.
Why do we need God for that?
Because
is that real in the chat? Violation detected.
Oh, that's just a troll. No, that's not real. So
are you high right now?
No. So if you want to be an empiricist, right? Empiricism is self-defeating. That's where you say all knowledge comes from sense data. It doesn't work. Because the proposition all knowledge comes from sense data, that's proposition's not in sense data. So that would be a self-defeating position. And then if you want to be a rationalist, that's not going to work either because you wouldn't. A rationalist needs coherence, but you wouldn't be able to get any type of coherence in a worldview that couldn't account for order, consistency. Yeah.
But how does it ground it? What's the mechanism for religion or God grounding any kind of intellectual thought?
Oh, well, when we're talking about a grounding relationship, we're talking about an entity that can explain why something exists, another entity. So we have logic, we have reason, we're rational beings. Well, that makes sense in the story of the Bible because God is rational and God created us, so it makes sense, and he made us in his image. So because God's rational, we're rational, so that God explains why humans are rational. But when you deny God, then you're saying at one point there's just the earth was just rocks and there was no life on earth, and then all of a sudden rational, where would you get rationality? Because rationality doesn't exist in rocks, but our life came from rocks. So it doesn't make any sense why we are rational on that story, that narrative.
I'm not sure that God explains that though.
What do you mean? God is rational, so he could create us to be rational.
But what if you find that irrational? What if you find the God grounding any type of rationality? What if you find that irrational in itself?
Well, that's irrelevant. A grounding relationship is just showing an entity that can explain another entity.
But are you a fan of philosophy, classical philosophy and epistemology and things like that?
Not really.
You're not a fan of epistemology?
No, I'm a fan of God.
But you use a lot of philosophy and a lot of philosophical terms.
Yeah, just because debate is philosophy. Debate is a subdivision of philosophy.
So, anyone going into a laboratory or a philosophy class, they're getting reliable and correct and accurate answers without this grounding of God. So why?
No, they aren't.
Why is that working out for them?
Because they live in God's world. I'm not arguing about this is just a view. You could this could be possibly true, or this hypothetically might be true. I'm saying this is necessarily actually the way the world is, and you cannot deny it. And so those people can do those things because what I'm saying is true.
But do you think it's ever okay for someone to presuppose a view, like if it's in politics or philosophy or religion, if you just presuppose something, is that like any way to get to the truth?
Well, anyone can presuppose anything they want. The point is,
Exactly.
so the question is, can you like metaphysically tether or connect like your presupposition to the world? So I'm arguing that revelation is necessary to connect any concept to reality. Without revelation, none of the mental categories could connect to the physical categories. So our concepts wouldn't match to the world, which means you couldn't say anything truthful about reality or the world.
So why is it working out in laboratories and philosophy classes?
Because God is real. We're in God's world.
But it's the God. You don't need God to get reliable data
Yes,
from
you
both
do.
of us.
Yes, you
So
do.
how is he coming into it? How is he coming into it?
Have you ever seen The Matrix?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so in The Matrix, there's scientists, and those scientists are doing experiments, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not real. They're in a matrix. So all those experiments, they're not telling the scientists anything about reality, are they? Because it's just like everything's a simulation. There is no reality in that world.
But that's the reality we find ourselves in. That's the reality everyone's in.
But if that's the case, then their whole life is a lie. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, what have you detected outside of that reality? We can't detect anything outside of the reality we find ourselves in.
Yes, we can. If God reveals knowledge to us, then we can know things outside of like our human limitations.
So you're saying there's a second reality, like beyond our reality, an ultimate reality. How do we detect that?
The only way we can know God is if God reveals, like, what God has to give us knowledge. This is what I'm arguing. God has to give us, because of our human limitations, God has to give us knowledge to make sense of the world, or else we're basically in the matrix. Like the Bible and God's revelation is the red pill to get you to the real world. You couldn't speak in any real or meaningful way without that.
But it's happening in laboratories and philosophy.
Because they're in God's world.
Yeah, but it's not coming into it. It's not coming into their work.
Yes, it is. Because look, to do an experiment, there has to be like consistency in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like God's revelation is the only thing that can explain that consistency. And we experience that consistency. We experience patterns in the world.
I don't see how God comes into that either. Just because there's consistency, what's it got to do with God?
God is like, God's necessary to explain the fundamental parameters of reality. So to deny God, it's like denying reality, denying what you experience. We experience God all the time. You're just denying it.
Do you think philosophy and science is like they have tools to investigate the fundamental parameters of reality?
No, they've abandoned that, and they're what's called phenomenal.
Why are they getting accurate? Why are they getting accurate answers?
Because they've abandoned metaphysics, which is what the world actually is, and they're phenomenalistic. So they deal with like our perceptions of the world. So
But they deal with everything. They deal with everything.
No, they don't. They don't tell us. Like science can't tell us we're in the matrix or not. Philosophy can't tell us if we're in the matrix or not.
And neither can Christianity.
Yes, it can, because if God gives us knowledge and tells us that there's a physical external world that He created, then we know the external world is real and it's physical. You would not.
Anyone could assert.
What? You're not getting
about their worldview.
No, not anyone can assert that. You need revelation. You're not getting this. Without knowledge from God, because like human knowledge and human like observations is not enough to know the world, to know reality. So you couldn't talk about reality if all you had was just like your logic and your science and your philosophy. That
That's the
doesn't
world we
tell us
live
anything
in.
about the world. What?
That's the world we live in. The world we live in, like, is built on science and philosophy.
But science and philosophy doesn't tell us about what the world actually is. It just tells us what we like perceive the world to be. But that's it.
And
Just because you perceive something to be, it doesn't follow logically that the world actually is what you perceive.
okay, so how do we? If I'm trying to find out what's an accurate epistemology, how do we? And we go to epistemological bedrock. So we don't know anything, and we're finding out how, like, what is reality, what is truth. Where do I go from there according to your worldview?
We need knowledge from God. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, how do we know? Like, we don't know anything. We don't know. So we need to start, like, from step one, like, with what tools do we have.
What are you talking about, dude?
We need to start from step one. Like, knowledge from God means nothing to a completely blank slate that has no idea about truth or reality.
Well, you're presupposing like tabula rasa. Like we're not blank slates. We're made in God's image. So God designed us from the beginning to like think a certain way, to think correctly about the world and to observe the world correctly. So from our starting point, God puts us in contact with the objects of knowledge so that we can like know the world.
So do you believe in human evolution?
I don't believe in the scientific theory of evolution.
Like, do you believe
I believe we're like de-evolving.
do you believe humans are like great apes?
No,
Why not?
because the Bible says we're made in the image of God. It doesn't say we're made in the image of a great ape.
Do you believe we're mammals?
Mammals? That's just like a scientific classification.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Uh-huh. I mean,
So do you believe?
definition. I mean, like, this is definitionally true. It's not really like something you can believe or not believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you gonna like be a Christian and be a realist, or are you gonna live an atheist fantasy? You gonna take the blue pill or the red pill?
I'm still thinking about being an epistemological bedrock, and we can do that now. We don't have to be blank slates. We can do that right now, as we are now.
Do what? What are you talking about?
Like, we like, what tools we have to discover truth and reality. So if I'm an atheist and I was going to come to Christianity, what tools do I have to realize that that Christianity is true?
The transcendental argument for God is an objective proof that Christianity is true. It's a philosophical.
You said it's like the way we are. We're made, and it's so obvious.
Yeah, God obviously reveals himself. He's unambiguously known to everyone.
So how do I detect that? How do I get that information?
You already have it.
Yeah.
You're just in a state of irrational denial.
So is it just shitty mind reading?
No, God has made his existence clear in creation. The creation exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality. You don't want to be in that world, so you pretend that the world exemplifies independence from God.
No, I'm not convinced that world exists.
Sir, okay. Once again, what you're doing is you're trying to frame the dialectic in order to give yourself an advantage in the conversation. So
You're
what we're
trying
talking
to.
about, please do not interrupt me while I'm talking. So either it is the case that the world exemplifies ultimate design intentionality, meaning the world exemplifies dependence upon God, or it is the case that the world exemplifies independence from God. So you adopt the position that the world exemplifies independence from God, correct?
I'm of the position that I'm not convinced by theology.
Okay, sir, that's strike one. If you dodge 2 more times, you're going to get kicked.
I'm telling you my
Okay,
position.
I already corrected you.
Just chill with the
by your
5-year-old emotion.
Okay,
Stop
that's strike
pontificating.
two.
You're a
That's strike
5-year-old.
two.
You're an
That's
emotional
strike two.
5-year-old.
That's
You're an
strike
emotional
two.
5-year-old. You're an
Okay,
emotional
your last
5-year-old.
warning. Strike 3. You're done. Goodbye. Do you see how, in the face of certain succinct questioning, they go into full-blown machine gun motor mouth in order to be verbally disruptive, so they no longer have to answer these questions?
Yeah, I mean, I made it really clear to him the situation. It's not
Yeah.
complicated.
Notice again. Well, Brandon, you're welcome to come up here and explain to me how I'm projecting. Okay, but I don't think you have the balls to do so, Brandon. Okay. The P1 of tag is self-authenticating. Okay. Okay. Tripart, do you accept God as your creator?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, man. God's everything's created. God's everything.
Okay. Well, we're looking to talk with unbelievers.
I I used to be an atheist though. What you said was right. That
Okay. I was on a stream earlier when a guy was saying how, a good God, an all-loving God cannot be compatible with evils in the world. So I just hit him right between the eyes with, can God be known if he doesn't reveal himself? And he said, no. I said, are you in a revelatory environment of God? He said, no. I said, then you can't know anything about God, can you? And of course, as usual, he just tried to lie his way out of it.
And if we're not in a revelational environment, we couldn't speak about reality at all. Like I think
Right.
that like Matrix example highlights that their problem, because like they have science and philosophy in the simulation just like we do, and science can't tell us anything about what the world actually is. They don't get this. It just gives us like data points that we have to interpret with our worldview.
That's correct. So I think this is an important question in the tool bag of defenders of the Christian worldview, is when they say what is or is not compatible with God, want to keep in mind 2 things here. Either they're saying that an all-loving God is not compatible with, suffering and death, or they're saying that the God of the Bible is not compatible with these things. But the God of the Bible reveals that these things are temporal judgments and that they are compatible with him being loving.
Well, they're gonna have to do an internal critique, but like,
well, let me put it this way. We have to make it clear to them that there are both temporal and eternal judgment from God. So you ask them, is eternal punishment incompatible with the God of the Bible being loving? Because the God reveals that it isn't. If they say, on the other hand, that eternal punishment, meaning an eternal judgment as opposed to a temporal judgment, is incompatible with God, we have to clarify, are we talking about just God in general, or we're talking about the God of the Bible? Either way, they're screwed, because they're going to be relying on reason and not revelation. Okay?
Well, from a Christian, if they're doing an internal critique from our perspective, like, God is the standard by which things are consistent at all. So how could God like contradict? Like,
so what they're doing is they're just saying certain states of affairs are not compatible with what God has revealed, but God has revealed that his both eternal and temporal judgments are compatible with him being loving.
yeah.
So what they're doing is
It's like a
they're
straw
not
man
right.
in the guise of an internal critique.
What they're saying is, by their own authority, they are asserting that certain states of affairs are not compatible with a generic God or the God of the Bible. Because
Well,
the God of the Bible makes it very clear that the temporal judgments are compatible with him because he has imposed them.
they want to say they're doing an internal critique on our position, but it's really like a straw man because
They're not doing an internal critique. What they're doing is what they're doing is under the guise of doing an internal critique, they're smuggling in their fake authoritative statement as to what is compatible or not compatible with God.
That's why I'm saying it's like wouldn't that be like a straw man fallacy then?
Yeah, they're not actually doing an internal critique. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, I was listening to Justin from the Deconstruction Center pick on low hanging fruit again, and he was talking about John 1, I think verse 29, having to do with John the Baptist. And then it says that in this passage, John encounters Jesus, and then it says which Jesus did the next day and then the following day. But then he contrasts that with Jesus being in the wilderness for 40 days. So
yeah, there's just like
I looked it up. The passage in John is not referring to when John baptized Jesus. What he's referring to is this is a second encounter with Jesus, right? Where Jesus was baptized by John, he went into the wilderness, and after the 40 days were done, he again encounters John, and John speaks in the past tense that he witnessed the Spirit of God in the form of a dove descend. John is speaking in the past tense. He's not speaking that it's in the present. So what Justin is doing is he's taking the verbiage of John, where John is speaking in the past tense, where this is the second time Jesus had an encounter with John, right? And Justin is trying to make that event synonymous with the first encounter with Jesus in the baptism. Because in the John right there, we don't read that was the same instance when he baptized Jesus. John is just speaking, saying, I bore witness to. You see how Justin is, he's an interesting character because he's using his intellect to smuggle in deceptions where or contradictions where none exist. But he's driven emotionally to do this. Have you noticed that?
Well, I think it's like an intentionally like misunderstanding, like a conflation or equivocation.
Yeah.
Like it's intentional.
But I looked it up because it's not clear. And in fact, what's clear from the text is John is speaking in the past tense.
I guess it's a confirmation. I mean, he's trying to make a career out of like, not wanting the Bible to be true or whatever.
but you have to ask yourself the question. It's one thing if somebody says, the Bible is a bunch of bunk, it's all hooey, it's all, Bronze Age. But why are these people making either a vocation or an avocation out of this? Why? Why are they doing this?
Like Josh Bowen, like he goes around as like a guest, like like.
Why is he doing this? Well, I'll tell you. I'll give you a hint. Okay. If we dig into his past, you'll find the answer. Okay.
It's really weird. Well, imagine like, see, both him and Justin, or Josh and Justin. It's like imagine. They have these degrees in theology or whatever. Like they both, I think, went to seminary.
What are Justin's degrees?
Or I thought he went to seminary. Or am I wrong?
So what?
No, I'm just thinking like they spend.
I'm not challenging you. I'm just simply saying, going to seminary. Okay, good. So so somebody took some courses in seminary. So what?
It's just funny. It's like because they don't like. I don't know if they were going to be a priest or something. And then they're like, now what do I do with all my life? I have this education in the Bible, and I don't believe in the Bible. So they try to
Well,
like
has he ever
turn that into
explained?
like,
Has he ever documented what the extent or length or depth of his quote unquote seminary training was?
well, I mean, even in their training, like Bible scholars devote themselves to like a single book, and like there's so much to know about the Bible. Like no one,
Yeah.
no one can be like an expert in the Bible.
Yeah, there's a lot of specialties. No, but the point
Yeah.
is this. In my recollection and listening to atheists, they frequently embellish and exaggerating their personal testimony,
Mm.
like Matt Dillabloviator did, you know. So the question is, when they say they went to seminary, okay, did they graduate with a
Yeah.
graduate degree? Did they graduate? And what was their major, right? Or did they take a course or two and then drop out? Okay. Or are they just washed up, bittered ex seminary students who never completed the program?
It's like knowing what I know about what like I read what Peter J. Williams was saying. It's like
Isn't he great?
Yeah, but it's like what Josh Boeing does is so disgusting because it's like a complete like grift and taking advantage of like people being emotional and taking their money. Like he's basically ripping them off. I feel like and
Yeah.
like spreading
Well,
misinformation.
just remember, although it's not talked about a lot,
Yeah,
Josh Bowen is on his second marriage. Okay, what happened? Right? If you take a look at John Loftus, who is a semi-famous atheist, he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, and that's when he left the faith. Right? So there's more to the story, right, than these people are telling, and they also embellish and exaggerate their personal history. So when it comes to Justin, you want to ask yourself a question. When he claims that he went to seminary, what does that mean? What does that entail? Did he complete a graduate level curriculum in seminary?
I watched him a little bit tonight. He's so goofy how he argues. Like this guy was arguing like historical evidence of God, which we know is a mistake. But so he's like, oh, if you accept historical evidence, then you accept that Nero resurrected or something like that. Like,
No, that's just so
as if
stupid.
like, oh, I
Oh,
accept.
by the way,
Yeah.
there was a somebody defending God's existence, and he said he had proof for God's existence, and there was nobody in the queue, and so I requested to come up, and he acknowledged he refused to bring me up. He goes, "You're just gonna run tag." You see how people are afraid of me?
Yeah, they don't like the tag argument. They don't really. They want to talk to the evidentialists. They can't really do anything on tag. I don't think.
We're not against presenting evidences, but we're against presenting evidence in the wrong way. By the way, if you haven't read it, you really need to read the book Van Til and the Use of Evidence by Tom Notaro. It's in the Van Til folder.
Because we disagree over what's possible and impossible, right? So, like, we think God resurrecting Jesus is possible before we examine evidence. Well, the non-believer is going to say, well, that's impossible before they examine evidence. And so that's where the disagreement is over what's possible or impossible.
Well, and they're driven by their confirmation bias that since it's not possible, therefore it didn't happen. Therefore, any defense of the resurrection of Jesus Christ cannot be historically accurate or eyewitness testimony.
That's why we have to deal with like the ultimate reality, which dictates possibilities. Yeah. So we know, like, so we go, look, these things are possible because X, Y, Z. Therefore, when we look at the evidence, it fits like only the Christian interpretive scheme is necessary to interpret the evidence. So. But of course, they want to have their atheist fantasy life, so they don't care.
By the way, did you hear me talk about the book Van Til and the Use of Evidence?
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that
Yeah,
book.
you should. It's a short book. It's an easy
Okay.
read. You should. That's a must read. It's in the Van Til folder. Okay.
I mean, yeah, we use evidence, but we have to, yeah, like frame it, like you said, within a presuppositional
Yeah. Yeah.
context, like an
Van Til
ultimate.
is not even against many of the traditional arguments for God,
Mm-hmm.
but that they're not being recapitulated in a revelational context.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, for example, I can say that the world exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because God created it's revelational. But when we try to show that the world is indicative of design, but we don't frame it in terms of being revelational, then it just becomes a probabilistic argument. But when you do it in a transcendental way, you're presenting it in an antithetical manner. Either the world exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality or not. See, we're no longer talking about a probabilistic considerations, because if you grant it presenting it as probabilistic, then the unbeliever can special plead till the time they stop breathing, right?
Yeah. If God is probably true, then he might not be
Yeah,
true.
yeah. Well, if God is probably true, right? Then that means that he could fail to exist, but God cannot be God if he can fail to exist. So remember, when unbelievers criticize God, they cannot criticize God without appealing to God's revelation of himself. If they say that something is incompatible with God, it will either be a state of affairs external to the Bible or something that's in the Bible. Either way, they can't show that it's incompatible with God.
Jack Bob is asking, why can't atheists use probabilistic reason to argue against God?
Because there's no ultimate framework for any probabilism. Because in probabilistic reasoning, you have to have access to the background information as to what's static and dynamic, okay? In terms of
Oh,
what is unchanging along with what's changing,
they would
right?
have nothing static in their model, right? I
Right.
mean, it's
So God being the ultimate static state, the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God institutes what does not change while allowing what does change. And so then we can talk about probabilistic considerations, like we have a 50% chance of rain today. Okay. Now, when we say that, we within God's plan, it's either going to rain or it's not going to rain. It's not like it can just happen or it won't happen. From our perspective, given the information that we have about weather, right? We know what's static and what is variable. Then we go, oh, there's a 50% chance of raining, right? But the point is, it'll either rain or it won't rain. It's not just like, oh, it just by chance started to rain. Okay.
Hey, Boolean, are you the Boolean from Discord? Do you want to talk to the guy you don't think has a PhD in physics again?
No, it's a waste of time. He's a numbnuts.
uh,
No, I don't believe him. And if he does have a PhD in physics, it's shocking. All right, I'm gonna go. Thanks for having me on.
yeah, we're not getting many
Yeah, please,
atheists.
please read that book, Van Til and the Use of Evidence.
All right, I'm
He's
still on. I'm working my way through Dr. Mullen's paper.
Oh, okay, that's good. See, and it's going to help you in dealing with unbelievers.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions on time, just let me know.
All right. Sounds good, man. All right. Have a good one. Jib. Is this Jib from...
Hi.
You're not the YouTube jib, are you?
Sorry, what?
Are you a Christian?
Oh, I'm not.
You're not?
No.
Oh, okay, never mind. You're a different jib then. Or Jube. Jube. I'm thinking of something. Never mind. Sorry, I was thinking of someone else. So anyways, what would you like to say?
Oh, well, I'm not. I respect all the beliefs and everything. No, I really don't. I'm not gonna say I don't care, but doesn't bother me whether people have a belief or something. I just coming for your statement and your life and your broadcast. So my question, it's not a question. Also, if you don't want to vibe with me, it's fine. The thing, if I don't believe because I don't have faith for it, and for me is illogical. A someone like a god who can know everything and be in everything, and like how someone who know everything can stop or can decide thing in the reality. So my thing is I don't believe that the characteristic that the people say about God is logical. Like,
Oh, but yeah, but the problem is like God's necessary for logic. So we wouldn't have logic without God. So
yeah.
can
So how you say that? Because logic is logic. It's
well, yeah.
not.
But what would cause logic to be true? There's nothing. If you don't, I mean, like without God, then nothing would cause logic to be true. It'd just be like random.
Yeah, but let's say this. You answer is saying a characteristic from God. Is no, you're not saying that exists or not. You're assuming already that he exists.
No, I'm saying that logic exists. We can't deny logic. And I go like, what is necessary for logic to exist? And it's going to be God. Like it makes sense that like if God's rational, that we're rational. But if you deny God, like then we came from rocks, but rocks aren't rational. So you're saying like what these irrational rocks like somehow produced rational beings? That doesn't make any sense.
I'm not saying the rock are rational. Rock are something that exists.
Yeah, but that's we either came from God or we came from rocks, and rocks are not rational. So it wouldn't explain how
Yeah,
we're
I'm
rational.
not agree that we came from rocks either.
Oh, well, where did we come from? If we,
Well, it's a lot of process. It's a lot of
yeah,
different
but
kind.
at one point in history, the earth was only rocks. There was no life.
No, that is not like that. I mean, we came
Yeah.
with different elements.
Right. At one point in history, earth was just like, yeah, there was rocks and there was chemistry where there's no life. There's
Well,
nothing rational. At one point in history, there's no rational beings on Earth, but somehow an irrational planet produced rational beings. See how that's like it's a contradiction,
if you say like that, it is, but you are skipping a lot of process.
bro? What? It doesn't matter. Like, how would you even have? There wouldn't even be any process. Like to even say like there's a physical process, and there has to be some sort of consistency and uniformity of nature. Well, God would have to cause that too. Like, what else would cause that?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, Mars, that thing doesn't prove God. You're saying just the consequence, like what he's doing.
What proves God is that like we understand the world through a story, right? And and the story in the Bible is a necessary story to understand our experience. You literally, it's impossible to deny.
Well, perhaps I'm alive and I don't have God of me.
Yeah, but if you deny the story in the Bible, the universe
I'm
becomes chaos where reason, morality lack ultimate grounding. So you
um
can't deny that rationally.
Mars. I'm not bringing the Bible.
I am. I'm saying the story of the Bible is necessary, and that if you deny the story in the Bible, the universe becomes chaos, where there's no ultimate grounding for reason or morality.
Well, Mars. Are you new in doing debates and like about this?
No, I've been doing it for a while.
So do you know that you can use the Bible to? There is some different ways than to prove the like try to prove God, but the Bible is not honest one.
Sure. Well, I'm using it. I'm making a transcendental argument. So I'm making it's a philosophical proof.
The transcendental argument is just a circle. How you put God out to that.
The circular would be in the worldview, but every worldview has a self-authenticating starting point. So
I know the argument, and you can't take out God from that. So that is not an argument.
all right. Well, I don't know. I think this is going over your head. So
No, it's not. I mean, like I say, I'm really chill. I just trying to,
yeah,
understand.
chill. I think there's like a language barrier thing or something because I make it an argument, but I don't think you're getting it.
I'm saying like that is not like the argument is not like strong enough. Like it's God isn't it's just a circle. Like you're gonna say
No,
it's
there's
necessary. You need God to the logical. That is not. That is a big statement that you can't prove.
well, no, but
How
you're
you can prove
using.
that the logic we need the God for be logical.
No, I actually did prove it, but I don't know. I think there's a language barrier. I'm gonna move on. But thanks for coming, man. I wish you well. You did behave yourself well. So
Hey, how's it going?
yeah, it's going well. How are you?
Pretty good.
Nice.
I just wanted to ask about something you just said there. You said that the story in the Bible is necessary.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess could you explain to me why, if Jesus were born in Bethlehem instead of Nazareth, it would be impossible for God to ground knowledge and intelligibility?
Yeah, because then the Bible would be false, right? And the Bible has to be true because without the claims of the Bible, like our human reasoning and our like science isn't enough to tell us anything about reality. We need knowledge from God to know anything about the actual world.
Oh, okay. I think there was a small like misunderstanding of my question. I'm not saying that if the Bible said Jesus was born in Nazareth, but he was really born in Bethlehem. I'm saying just necessary, I take it to mean like true in all possible worlds. I'm asking in a world where Jesus were born in Bethlehem instead of Nazareth and all else remained the same, how would it be impossible for God to ground knowledge and intelligibility?
And when we're talking about transcendentals, we're not talking about like possible worlds, right?
Oh, when you
Like,
say when you say that the story in the Bible is necessary, you don't mean true in all possible worlds?
it's a transcendental necessity. That means it's like necessary to understand our experience.
Okay. So like okay, that would clear that up. But just so just you don't mean by necessary there, you don't mean like true in all possible worlds.
When we're arguing transcendentally, yeah, we're not talking about like hypotheticals and guesses. We're talking about actuality. We're arguing like Van Til says we're arguing like concretely. So we're not arguing about. I'm not arguing Christianity as like a possible world or a guess. I'm saying it's like a concrete metaphysical reality.
Okay. Okay. That clears up that. I guess just I have to go pretty soon, but I thought of like a new kind of argument, I guess, if I can run it by you really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you think that God can change, like change his
God
mind?
change. There's like different kinds of changes. There's like a Cambridge change, which means um, like a so there's extrinsic changes and there's intrinsic change.
Intrinsic. Do you think
Yeah,
that God can change his desires?
changes desires. I don't think so.
Okay. I would agree. I don't think
I
so.
mean, I'm not a theology. I'm not like great about this stuff though. It's not my specialty.
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't think it's necessary to like be able to like think about the entailments of what I'm saying. I would agree that I don't think God can change God's mind. Would you agree that Jesus is God?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you agree that Jesus wanted to feed the hungry after the fall?
he wanted to feed the hungry after the fall.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know.
Like with the loaves and fishes.
He
God
wants
had a
God wants
desire to end hunger after the fall of Eve.
God wants humans to freely love him and love others. That's what he wants.
In regards to feeding people who are hungry, do you think that God has that desire, or Jesus had that desire after the fall?
Like Jesus is in heaven. What are you talking about?
I know where Jesus is. I'm saying after the Garden of Eden, when Jesus was on the earth, do you think Jesus had the desire to feed hungry people since he fed hungry people?
I think
I
that
think it's just trivially true, right?
well,
He
I
did it.
mean, we only know what God reveals, and Jesus said like we're supposed to love God and love others. So like we
Right,
know
but in regards
God.
to feeding people who are hungry, God performed one of his miracles to feed people who are hungry,
Well,
right? He made many loaves out of few loaves.
that would include like he wants people to feed the hungry that exist on earth. Yeah.
Yeah, but Jesus himself wanted to feed the hungry also, right?
When he was on earth,
Yes.
but that's not all that he did.
No, I'm not saying that's all they did. I'm not trying to trap you. This I thought was going to be the easiest question out of all of them. I'm saying Jesus, when he was on earth, performed miracles to feed the hungry. So we would assume that he wanted to feed the hungry. That would be more like rational than assuming that he didn't want to but did it anyway or something. Like obviously you don't want to make that
What
claim, right?
about the times when he wasn't feeding the hungry? Did he desire to feed the hungry then?
That's what I'm asking you.
Hmm.
Would you say that it was one of Jesus's desires to feed the hungry after the fall?
I don't. I don't know.
Like we can't point to any of his actions that might have indicated that he wanted to.
He personally wanted to like. I don't know what he want. I don't know.
You don't think Jesus personally wanted to
Well, we can only know what
divide
God.
5,000 loaves for 4,000 people and 7,000 loaves for 5,000 people? Like, you don't think he
Yeah,
wanted
he
to
did
feed
that,
hungry
but
people?
that's just because he did that one time doesn't mean he like has a continuous desire to constantly do that.
I'm not asking if he has a continuous desire. I'm asking in that instance, do you think he had a desire to feed hungry people? I thought this was going to be the very easiest question to answer.
I don't think we can like because Jesus did this action. I don't think we can extrapolate that he has this like universal desire to like constantly do this thing.
Okay, so okay, I mean, we can take that logic to like all the way to just because Jesus got crucified doesn't mean that he always wants to save people. Like, what do you mean?
I mean, because I don't think the Bible teaches us to. What you're doing is like a causistic type of like reasoning or morality, where you're taking like an action in a specific instance and then trying to like create some like universal like notion from that action, which is just not. That's not what we do as Christians. So
I'm saying that if there's a choice between somebody who does a moral thing
Thank you for
And does
coming.
it, let's say, like, wait, let's say somebody does something that's moral every other day, and another person.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I thought it was an atheist requesting. I guess maybe I would have left that guy to BS more, but I was getting sick of
Did you
that.
kick him off?
Yeah, I was getting sick of that crap.
Oh my goodness! You can't let multiple people on once.
Well, I can. I just usually don't because then I have to like moderate. It's annoying.
Oh, I see. All right.
But yeah. Now no one's requesting. Did that here? I can invite him back up if you want to talk to him. I just don't want to talk to him anymore. He's a nonsense person.
All right. Sure. What's up? Right here. What do I call you right here?
You can call me Zach if you want. That's fine.
All right, Zach. So your particular argument that you're running by here, I know you got to go, right?
I gotta go in like 5 minutes, yeah, but I got time.
That's fine. So when you speak of like God's wants or desires, right? When you speak of Christ's miracles, that's in reference to his human nature.
Yeah.
So that want was temporal. It had a beginning and an end.
Oh, you're saying that God doesn't want to feed hungry people, like God in heaven.
That doesn't follow.
What? Okay, I agree. I agree. It shouldn't follow that. But that would mean that we're back to my side. If God does want to feed hungry people, which is my claim.
He does want to feed hungry people. Yeah, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. And nobody could stop him, right?
I mean, nobody can stop him.
I mean that nobody could keep him from doing so if he had that desire.
That's not necessarily true. His desire doesn't have to be met by anybody else. It's not true.
What do you mean?
People can go against God's will.
Even if he doesn't want them to?
If he doesn't want anybody to go against his will, and they still do. Yeah, they can.
Well, how is it that people's like imagination is more powerful than God's revelation?
What? That does not has nothing to do with the conversation.
Yeah, because you
That's
said
a
that
red
people
herring.
could choose. No, you said it directly follows. You said that people could go against God if they want to, and I asked.
People can oppose God's will.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was explaining how it was relevant, but if you understand now, then go ahead. Yeah.
I'm explaining that people are opposing God's will, right?
Yeah.
This does not entail any contradiction from that statement.
I didn't say it was a contradiction. I said that it just seems counterintuitive to say that even if God doesn't want people to turn away from him, they can anyway, since he's like all powerful and all everything.
Well, there's a difference between like willing things to be and willing for a normative ought claim, right? Like what one ought to do. Those are two different things.
God created us.
I understand that. But
Okay.
you get how like my argument was going, right? Like I was saying, like, do you think God can change? Yes or no? Right? Do you think Jesus is God? Yes or
God
no?
can't change, but his human nature that he assumed definitely can. It definitely can. So
Okay,
like,
so are you saying that when Jesus was God on earth, that he changed from not wanting to feed hungry people to wanting to feed hungry people?
I was not making that claim. I said
Okay, then
that
he either changed or
1
didn't
second,
change.
let me change the quantifier here.
Okay.
Some of Jesus's desires, right, when he was a human being, could have changed throughout his life because it is in reference to his human nature, which contains passive potency.
Okay. If you're making the claim that feeding hungry people was one of the things that changed, I understand why you're bringing that up. If you're not saying that, I don't understand why you're bringing that up.
So the specific desire for the specific miracle and the quantity of said miracle probably was a desire that changed, right? Because the quantity of the people there, right? That could have been something that God's desires then could have changed in the sense of the human nature, right?
But I'm saying whether it's 3 people or 3 million people, feeding 3 hungry people versus 3 million hungry people you would still express true of that agent that they had a desire to feed hungry people.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What's the disagreement here?
Well, no, we just got hung up on that question. Me and Mars, we got hung up on that question, and then but that was the like last horn before like the like what it would commit you to if you thought all three of those things, right? If you think that God can't change, and that Jesus is God, and Jesus wanted to feed hungry people after the fall, then there's no reason why there are hungry people after the fall.
It's like 15
All right.
logic.
So yeah,
It's
that's
like so stupid.
Wait, explain to me why it's
that's
stupid so I can be
not gonna
better,
follow.
You did
or
explain.
I can be
That's
convinced
false.
of your position. I don't get it.
As I said, there's a distinction between God willing things to be and exist and that directly happening, and God willing for what one ought to do. So when God wills for what one ought to do, that is a metric for what you should follow. That doesn't mean that you cannot break said rule and not follow God. And that's distinct from God's will in specifically ordaining things and in creating things. Those are three distinctions.
Okay,
Do you understand that?
I do understand that there are distinctions between like his implicit will or his explicit will and his commandments. I do understand that. What I would like to understand,
Okay.
and I sincerely do want to understand.
Okay.
In my chain of like inferences where I said, can God change? Is Jesus God? Does God want to feed the hungry after the fall? Then why are people hungry after the fall? Why is that stupid? And I really do want to understand if I'm making some error.
So, I mean, I believe that some people being hungry is actually a good thing. Why? Okay. I would argue that's actually a good thing in my
Wait.
opinion.
You can talk about this all you want. But if you'll answer my question first, please.
Sure.
Why is that chain of inference? Why did it get that reaction from you guys? Like it seemed like you guys both obviously like you've heard something like this before, and it was just obviously such a stupid mistaken reasoning. Where is that? I don't get it.
Yeah, you said it would have to necessarily be the case that in the external world, it has to be actualized that like nobody has any hunger because God desires it. And I said that's completely false because when it comes to hunger, that is about a normative ought or what God believes that people ought to do, right?
Wait, you think it would be true to say that people okay in a normative way that like people should eat if they don't want to die? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean that's just trivial. I would agree with you, but
Okay.
what does what was so like egregious that like I don't get it because it just seems to me that
Just
if
because you
God
should
wanted people
have
fed,
something
Not
doesn't
getting
mean that you're
this.
going to have it.
How are you not getting this? God doesn't control what we ought. Like, God doesn't. God created us as a secondary cause, right? So He doesn't control our decisions. See what I'm saying?
right? But he doesn't have to force us to eat. But I'm saying like why is it not the case that people can freely walk by like mountains of never perishing food or something? You know what I mean?
Because
Like it's
people
not obvious to me why it's so stupid to say that God wouldn't have to force feed people to provide food for people that are hungry.
I think
Are you
it's a
talking about?
prideful question.
Are you talking about an imaginary world where like there's just food appearing by miracles?
Yeah, like the Garden of Eden or something. Yeah.
Well,
That's
the
the world.
people would be gluttons, which would not go for
No,
his
that's the
will.
world. That's the world He did create, and then you're forgetting that
In the
we're going
fall.
through, we're in the process of God's temporal judgment, where He
Yeah, but
temporarily allows death and suffering so that we learn not to love the world and we repent and turn toward God.
I'm not forgetting that. And in fact, I specifically
Yes, you
factored
are.
into my chain of reasoning because Jesus wanted to feed humans not before the fall, but after.
Oh my God, dude! See how stupid this is.
Wait, how's that not smart? Thinking of that.
But I'm so dumb.
Oh, I don't think you're dumb. I think you like we're just like having
No,
a
I was doing an
conversation.
impression of you.
Oh my
Oh, it
God.
didn't sound very much like me. That's why.
Oh,
Yo,
yeah.
you're silly, bro.
It's very slow. Very slow boy.
Very slow. Very, very slow. Jade Iyer would not be happy.
Yeah, this is why I didn't even want to talk to this person. This nonsense person. Like they're talking about that he's making claims about God. But like, how would the fucking atheists know anything about God? Because we can only know what God reveals about Himself to us. So where the fuck is the inconsistency in God's revelation? The guys just go like, oh, what if God did this? And what if what? How are you fucking talking about God, dummy? Welcome, guest.
Good morning. Hey, I agree with you. I mean, that's part of the problem is that we don't know a lot about God because, at least in my 40 years being on earth, He's never revealed Himself to me. He's never called me. He's never checked up on me. He's never done anything really other than...
That's a lie. His invisible
No, to me.
qualities are obvious and plain. You're just a liar.
I'm a liar?
You're a liar.
So he's called me to check up on how I'm doing?
No, He's revealed Himself to you. Is obvious. You can't rationally deny God.
Have you ever heard of Hotline Bling?
All I'm telling you, brother, is that my parents, my brothers and sisters, my family, my friends, through the good times and bad times, most of them have, checked up on me or called or celebrated things. And I've never once got a call or anything from God. I don't.
You don't deserve that shit. You're a scumbag.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine that I don't deserve it. I'm just saying. I'm just stating a fact. Don't get upset at me.
Yeah, and I'm just stating a fact that you're a complete scum. And
Okay,
God's been
fine.
nicer to you. God's been way nicer to you than you ever deserved.
That's
you ignore
fine.
God and you mock
I'm
God.
not ignoring him. I'm not ignoring. I'm just stating a fact.
You
Now, if you're upset,
ignore God and
Why
you
are
mock
you
God.
getting
You
upset?
are look. I'm not getting upset.
You are
I'm just
upset.
stating
You're calling me
facts.
names for
I'm
no-
just
okay, that's fine.
No,
That's
I'm
a
not
fact.
calling you names. I'm stating
You just called me
facts.
scum.
You
Okay,
are
that's
scum.
fine.
That's
Okay,
the
that's
Christian
fine.
worldview.
Okay, I understand. I get
The
it.
Bible says humans
I
are
get
scum.
it. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I get it. You're
Hello.
a Christian.
Okay, do you get it?
I said okay.
You are a scumbag.
Okay,
You deserve nothing.
I'm a scumbag. I deserve
a
nothing.
lake, a special
Okay,
lake
that's
for
fine.
you.
I
Okay.
understand your mindset.
There you go. All right.
Here's my question. The reason I came up. God has given us the power to do what we want to do, right? And it sounds like He doesn't intervene in what we do.
No, sometimes He does intervene.
Exactly. Except the sometimes. What's interesting to me is that the only time He intervenes is to punish, tell us how bad we are, like you're saying, like a scum. And I just wonder why He's never, come and stepped up and said, you know what? Let me help these children at St. Jude's Hospital. Let me do this. Let me do that. Something positive. Every time we read a story about this entity, He's always punishing and saying how great He is and how He should
Not
be
true at all.
and how
Pharaoh.
He's
You know that.
perfect. I mean, you can be upset. I don't know why you get upset for defending God. If I'm offending God and He can rectify what I'm saying, all He has to do is contact me and do it. He should be upset.
You're just okay.
Why
I
are
get
you
it.
upset? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay,
Think
so
about it. Why are
basically,
you upset
what's
about
going
me
on
talking
here?
about someone
Okay,
else?
okay, I get it. Okay, basically, what's going on in here is we have a person who likes to bitch, moan, and complain, and no matter how God would design the world, this person is going to bitch, moan, and complain because their whole thing in their life, because they turned their back on God. When you turn your back on God, you bitch, moan, and complain. All right. So it doesn't matter how, it's totally irrelevant. You can go, oh, why didn't God do this? Why didn't God do that? God could make the world perfect, and this guy is going to bitch, moan, and complain. It's irrelevant to what God does, okay? You're just unhappy person. That's the issue. It's not God. It's a you problem. It's not God's problem.
Right. What I would say is very, very simple, which is that I think it's very prideful to say that you have a right to basically, call God up, for God to like call you like it's Hotline Bling by Drake, right? Call you on your cell phone or something. I believe that's completely incoherent. And I believe that that's a very prideful position because it gets rid of the Christian idea of divine hiddenness. Right, there's a passage in John that covers this very, very issue, right, where Thomas, the disciple of Christ, doubts that He had resurrected from the dead. asked Christ to appear to him. Christ did eventually appear to him. But Christ, after he appeared to them, and Thomas believed that he actually resurrected. Basically, what Jesus said was like, "Listen, dude, if you don't see me and still believe, you have more blessings accounted for you." So, like, in order to judge your heart, there's a level of divine hiddenness in the sense that he's not gonna just like come out there and like call you on a cell phone or something, dude.
No, I appreciate that. I understand what you're saying. To respond to the host about happiness, what's funny is I'm very happy and I'm very successful. I'm very successful in my life without God doing anything for me that I could see. So I'm not bitching and moaning and complaining because I'm upset. I'm not really upset with life. I'm actually very, very pleased. And if you want to say blessed, I'm blessed in life. I just want to know why God hasn't, what I had asked. Now, you bring up, it's on a Bling Hotline, Drake. What's kind of interesting about that is maybe he would call Drake, since Drake's Jewish. And from all the scriptures that I read, in the Old Testament, when you're not a Jew, he ain't talking to you. So maybe
That's not true. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. You've never read any of the Bible. If you say something like that,
I'm gonna say it. What non-Jewish person in the Old Testament has God revealed himself to?
okay, Pharaoh, I recommend you read through the book of Malachi and think what God really has his opinion on the Jews are.
Tick. No one. That's why.
He reveals himself to everyone. You're totally
because he said because
I'm just gonna okay. Bye
bye. Directly.
Uh,
You guys ignorant. What was he saying?
Yeah, he was like saying, why does God only reveal himself to Jewish people? But like, if you read all throughout the Old Testament, he talks about how how he dislikes the current Jews, and he wants to talk to the Gentiles, right? Like he wants to, have his temple expand to the Gentiles. But it's whatever.
I was gonna say something to that guy. Crap, I forget what I was gonna say.
Thanks for letting me on, by the way. I'm staying up here for a while.
What did that guy say? He was saying how like God didn't reveal himself to me. Why didn't he call me? Oh no, I remember what I was gonna say. He said I'm so happy and successful. Kierkegaard said like the worst kind of despair is the despair when you don't even know you're in despair. And the truth of the matter is like God is really our only hope in life. If there's no God, there's no hope. Humans, like ultimately, the sun is going to destroy Earth. And so there'll be no human life in the future on a scientific perspective, right? So without God, it's just nihilism. It's just utter destruction. We only have hope through Jesus and everlasting life and all that. So you might think you're successful and you're not in despair, but he's just lying to himself.
This was Dostoevsky's point in one of his books against nihilism. Like he wanted to decontaminate nihilism from society and its harsh effects. The only way that can happen is through some type of religion.
Yeah, nihilism is whack. It leads to think about China. There's no Christianity really in China, and that's where a lot of human rights violations are. I don't think. And then we see in Christian countries people are treated better.
It's almost like Christians are one of the most tolerant people all throughout history.
Yeah, even more so than Islamic countries.
I mean, just look at the Eastern Roman Empire when they took it over. It became so humane.
And we can point to examples like the French Revolution, where atheists took control of the government and they made the cult of reason the state religion, and they were very oppressive and cruel.
But talk about Stalin.
Yeah, him too.
Invaded Georgia, slaughter tons of Christians. Typical.
But you probably don't want to bring him up being your Eastern Orthodox.
Right, yeah. That's crazy.
Because like after the war, Hitler invaded. Oh crap! I can't say that. Mustache Man invades. Yeah, after he invaded, then Stalin reversed his like position on the church, and then like the church started to support Stalin. So that's kind of like. But anyways,
I know, but I mean that doesn't take away how he slaughtered tons of like Orthodox though in Georgia. But
well, I think I actually might end the live here, but I might stream later today. So,
all right,
thanks for coming up, man.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna catch some Z's.
Yeah, that's what I think. I need to take get more sleep.
Yeah, I tried to not say any harsh word on this TikTok.
Yeah,
so.
It's hard. It can be hard. That's a struggle. I can always, since you're a guest, I can always kick you if you do, I guess.
Oh.
All right. Peace.
All right.